In our last episode, we traveled from Martinique to Marigot Bay in St. Lucia. We all know what a difficult year it's been with the COVID-19 pandemic. Travel is now possible, especially for the vaccinated, and it is getting easier thanks to effective vaccines. Canada just changed the rules to allow vaccinated Canadians that have negative PCR tests to return without quarantine. And that allowed our family members, Jacques and Manon from Quebec, to visit us. So BioTrek is nestled at the far end of Marigot Bay as our hurricane hole for the summer. So it's really close to the mangroves and a very safe place for hurricane season, as we've shown in our last episode on Hurricane Elsa. Our friends from Palm 3 were in St. Lucia together with us, and we were tied up side by side. Tiller had a scary accident when she fell between the boats. She was used to jumping between the boats, but just didn't pay attention one time. Luckily, she's a good swimmer. And we got her out, dried off, and back across the gap. After Jacques and Manon arrived, Palm 3 and BioTrek prepared to leave for Rodney Bay, where we were going to spend a couple days, then go our separate ways.
Bisous. Bisous. We're leaving.
As we leave Marigot Bay, you can see just how beautiful it is here.
My heart screamed out for more. It's the storm inside that's breaking my heart each morning while it keeps it going. It's been
Manon.
driving my mind into both joy and sorrow. There's still a long way to go.
As we headed towards Rodney Bay, we traveled up the coast to St. Lucia. Palm 3 is a 5X, and it's so nice to see the performance of another 5X from a distance. Just beautiful. We entered Rodney Bay, we fueled up, and then we went and anchored in the bay. We returned by dinghy for a nice dinner in one of the restaurants. Sorry, no pictures of BioTrek at anchor. It was a beautiful sight with Palm and BioTrek side by side.
Like the journey just begun.
The next morning, we left on our trip. St. Vincent and the Grenadines had just changed the rules to allow vaccinated people with a negative recent PCR test to visit without quarantine. So we decided to head south to that area, which is a beautiful cruising ground.
Along St. Lucia at 7 knots. We know that the inlet for Marigot Bay is just past our storage containers. And so there's very little wind coming down this leeward side of the island, but we'll expect more wind between St. Lucia and St. Vincent. Just a nice morning. We left around 6 a.m.
St. Lucia is the largest of the English-speaking Windward Islands, and it's mountain and lush, with quite a lot of rain in the summer, but really just brief showers. The area around Soufrière and the Piton is lush and green, with the dramatic physical beauty of the two pitons and beaches in between. St. Lucia was colonized by the pirate James de Bois, or called Pegaleg Leclerc, who attacked Spanish ships in the 1600s. The island then passed between the French and the British, until finally, in 1845, the French ceded St. Lucia to the English, although many on the island still speak some French. St. Lucia was one of the last European colonies to declare independence in 1979.
Just getting in the acceleration zone between the islands. Just leaving the tip of St. Lucia.
This is an election year in St. Lucia, with elections planned for June 26. And the local newspaper called The Voice has an article that says, the right to vote didn't just come about because Queen Elizabeth and the colonial government administrators woke up one morning in 1951 and suddenly felt sorry for the disenfranchised islanders. Instead, it shutting down the islands and territories in a massive regional protest that truly frightened the colonial overlords and caused nightmare for the British government. That's what it took. And it's such an interesting time to be in St. Lucia when people are really caring for how this island proceeds, particularly given how COVID has hit the island hard, which is an island based on tourism.
Okay, we're in the St. Vincent Channel between the islands. We've got good wind. Our speed is good. We're going between 12 and 13 knots. Our plan is to go to this area south, the Grenadines, which is a beautiful cruising ground. Lots of little islands. But we have to stop in St. Vincent to do the clearing in and have our health check. Of course, traveling with COVID is not easy these days. It takes a lot of preparation. You need to know the rules. You have to have a PCR test. It has to be within so many days. Often online forms have to be filled out. You have to be seen by a health official before you can even think about doing customs and immigration. And we've got some waves. And I hear Pierre starting the motor because there's a lot of sargassonweed and it gets caught in the props. You can hear it, and then he just puts the motor in reverse to get rid of it and turns it off. There we are. We were hoping to make it without reefing because we're going to be on the leeward side soon, but let's see how it goes. And the bottom roller exploded, so that was a big bang. But otherwise, all is fine. We'll have a look at that rope when we get in the calmer waters. It had a weak point that Pierre, there's a big wave there. It had a weak point that Pierre had fixed, but it was really just kind of a band-aid fix, and yeah, that's what happens. You can see it's really rough right now. Our family's sitting outside, they're a little seasick. Just bouncing a bit, really. We've had much worse. This is not like the Gulf Stream. Going at 24, it's just on 26, it's 25. That's the wind speed there. So it's up and down in this acceleration zone. I don't have my piano down here anymore, but the printer's there, and I gotta double check things because that window leaks. Hit a wave that comes in. Coming in from the top as well.
So let's fast forward to when Jacques and Pierre repaired the window once we were in the Grenadines.
So this is the window that leaked when my piano got damaged. I took a video and I saw that it was leaking from the top, and when you took out the front plate you could see the light coming through, which meant of course the water was coming through from the top. And so when waves would hit that window, you see I have a towel there that ever since then I keep. And I had to have this all covered in towels because this whole table would get wet if we were in rough seas. So you think it's just because they forgot to put the silicone?
Yes, there's never been any silicone like this. That's how it comes from the factory. There's no silicone at all.
And you think the other ones all have silicone?
Well, I hope so. They haven't leaked so far, so they must.
Okay, so that's the story of the leaking window. I guess I should have made a bigger deal about it earlier. So back to our sail. We're just approaching St. Vincent.
volcano of St. Vincent.
Yeah, it's fresh lava right there.
The volcano in St. Vincent erupted earlier this year on April 9th, as seen in the inset here. The volcano, called La Soufrière, sent out ashes 6 miles high and had a huge explosion of pyroclastic flows, which are masses of hot lava, ash, and gas. Seismic activity detected the day before led to evacuation of the people in the surrounding area, and no one was killed. The last eruption of this volcano 40 years ago killed 1,000 people. After we passed La Soufrière, some wind came back and we put out the stay sail as our head sail.
Very small boat there. Lost our wind. So we passed the volcano. We can still smell a lot of smoke. Eating a little casserole, Mexican casserole. Back to the wind again. The stay sail out. So this is the Blue Lagoon Marina. There's a restaurant up top. Right now we're in quarantine. We can't even step on the dock. It's pretty hot here. And we're just trying to get a little bit of shading. We're just told the St. Vincent flag is upside down, so Pierre's going to fix that. I'll know next time. In St. Lucia, the point is up because it represents the mountain. Here, the point is down.
With vaccination records and PCR tests in hand, we were cleared in within a few hours and were able to go to a restaurant for dinner. And here's a review of our trip.
Yes, we took 6 hours and 47 minutes and an average speed of 9.5 knots. Maximum speed 21 knots. Wow. And what else? Distance by GPS and distance in the water. That's our little sail that we had today.
That's it.
In the next episode, we sail on to the beautiful Tobago Keys.